Hello students, welcome to this part 8 of the module on linear algebra. Alright, so in this module we'll continue our discussion of eigenvalues and the eigenproblem and the general results that are valid with regard to the eigenvalue problem of normal matrices. Recall that normal matrices are matrices wherein you have A dagger is A dagger A, where A dagger is the Hermitian conjugate of A. Of the operator on matrix A. Okay. Now we are going to further, what we saw in the last lecture was that if you have a matrix to be normal, if A is a normal matrix, then the eigenvectors corresponding to distinct eigenvalues are orthogonal. Eigenvectors are corresponding to distinct eigenvalues are orthogonal. We explained also why this is a very interesting result, because we are interested in finding in an n-dimensional space set of orthogonal bases. So how would you get an orthogonal basis? Well, if the operator or matrix is normal, then it is very easy to get an orthogonal basis. Then you can express any vector, let's say y, if axi is equal to, if axi is equal to lambda I xi is the eigenvalue problem for this normal matrix A, then xi's are linearly independent or orthogonal eigenvectors. So you can express any vector in that n-dimensional space in terms of the eigenvectors of the normal matrix. Okay. Now we also saw that the Hermitian and unitary matrices are special cases of normal matrices. Now in this module we are going to look at unitary matrices. What are unitary matrices? Unitary matrices are ones in which A dagger is equal to A inverse. So this is the definition of an unitary matrix. Okay, so this is also a normal matrix, because if you substitute A dagger, what is A dagger, which is A times A inverse, because A dagger is A inverse, is I. That's the same as A dagger is A inverse A, that is also I, right? So if a matrix A satisfies this property, which makes it unitary, it is also automatically a normal matrix. It satisfies the condition for a normal matrix. So in some sense a unitary matrix is a special case of a normal matrix. Okay. Alright, so now let's look at the properties of eigenvalues and eigenvectors of a unitary matrix. Again we have the eigenproblem Ax is lambda x, right? Now suppose I'm interested in x dagger x. Okay, that's nothing but x dagger. Then I can write it as times I times x dagger. Instead of I can write A inverse A. Instead of A inverse, because A is unitary, this implies that A dagger is the same as A inverse. So instead of this A inverse, I'm going to write x dagger, A dagger, Ax, which is nothing but Ax the whole dagger times Ax. So x dagger x, the inner product of the two eigenvectors, is such that it is Ax the whole dagger times Ax, but Ax the whole dagger is nothing but Ax is lambda x. That's eigenproblem. So if I take the conjugate, Hermitian conjugate, Ax the whole dagger, it's nothing but lambda star times x dagger. So instead of this I'm going to write lambda star x dagger, but Ax is lambda x. Okay. Now this can be written as lambda star lambda x dagger x. This is x dagger x. Okay. So lambda star lambda is nothing but the amplitude of lambda the whole squared. So x dagger x is a scalar, gets cancelled on both sides, is 1. Okay, so the eigenvalues of a unitary matrix have unit modulus. Okay, this is a very special property of unitary matrices. We saw last time that the eigenvalues of a symmetric Hermitian matrix are real. The eigenvalues of a unitary matrix have unit modulus. Okay, they can be complex, but they have unit modulus. Okay, right. So in general, if you have an arbitrary n by n square matrix, which is arbitrary in the sense that it is not a normal matrix, there is no, so then there is no general theorem or properties for the eigenproblem of a general arbitrary matrix which is not under the category of a normal matrix, right? In normal matrix, you know that if you have a normal matrix, we have shown that the eigenvectors corresponding to distinctive eigenvalues are orthogonal. Further, if you specialize down to Hermitian, then you know that the eigenvalues are real. If you specialize to unitary matrices, then you know that the eigenvalues must have complex modulus. Unit modulus. Okay, they can be complex numbers. Okay, now we'll go back to normal matrices. So here let me write arbitrary square matrix. Back to normal matrices. Okay, suppose I say you have two different normal matrices, A, B, both are normal. Okay, now we can ask the question, you know that A has a set of eigenvectors, B has a set of eigenvectors, and the eigenvectors are orthogonal. Okay, we can ask the question, when do two different normal matrices have the same set of eigenvectors? The question is not that of eigenvalues, we are asking eigenvectors. Okay, the answer to this question, which we will show, which will demonstrate why it is correct just now, is that if the two matrices commute, that is, if AB is BA, if the two normal matrices AB and BA commute, they commute then the eigenvectors are common. Okay, how do you show that? So let's say AXI is lambda I, xi is the eigenproblem for and let's assume that lambda i's are distinct. Okay, so because AB is BA, so let's multiply AB xi is nothing but BA xi. Okay, because AB is BA, so this is nothing but B times AXI is nothing but lambda I xi. So ABXI is B times lambda I xi. Lambda is a scalar, so I can pull it out. Lambda times BXI. So A times BXI is lambda I times BXI. So A times something is lambda I times something. That means that BXI is also an eigenvector corresponding to eigenvector of A corresponding to eigenvalue lambda I, right? Because A times some vector is lambda times the same vector. That means this is an eigenvector of matrix A or operator A. Okay, so you know that eigenvectors, see, AXI is lambda I xi. The xi is an eigenvector. BXI is also an eigenvector, right? So eigenvectors are independent of, I mean, you can always multiply eigenvector. As I told you, it still remains the same. So that means that if I compare these two expressions, so Bxi must be equal to some mu I xi, some other scalar. So, but if you look at this, this is an eigenvalue problem for B with mu I as eigenvalues of B. But the eigenvectors are the same as A because they are the same eigenvectors. Axi is lambda xi. This xi is also from the same xi, right? We are simply multiplying this by B, and then we are using the property that they commute. So we have shown that if the two operators, if two normal matrices commute, then that means that they have a same set of eigenvectors. Okay, so let's before I go on to important topic of similarity transformation, let me define what is called an adjoint operator. The fundamental definition of what is an adjoint operator. Suppose I have two vectors u and v. So I take the inner product of v times au, that is the same as a star v inner product u. This is the definition. Adjoint operator is denoted as a star of the adjoint operator a star of a. How will you find the adjoint operator? You have to first operate a with u, then take the inner product of that with v. That must be written as a star v taking inner product of a star v times u, where a star is the inner product. Okay, so how do you make sense of this definition? In a given basis, right, this becomes v dagger a u, and the right hand side becomes a star v whole dagger operating on u. Okay, so this is nothing but v dagger a star the whole dagger operating on u. This is nothing but v dagger au. If I compare these two, okay, that means that these two operators are the same. That is, a must be equal to a star the whole dagger. If I take the Hermitian conjugate on both sides, whole dagger, this is nothing but the two conjugates cancel out. This implies, right, a dagger is a star. That is, the Hermitian conjugate of a matrix is its adjoint. So the definition of adjoint of a matrix from the fundamental definition of a matrix, fundamental definition of an adjoint is this: VAU is a star VU, right? A star is nothing but a dagger, where a dagger is the Hermitian conjugate of A. If A is a dagger, we call the matrix a Hermitian matrix, right, or a Hermitian operator. But a dagger is nothing but a star. So if a dagger is by definition a star, so if A is a star, we call such an operator a self adjoint operator. When the matrix and its adjoint are the same, we call such operators a self adjoint operator or self adjoint matrix. In the case of matrix, a self adjoint matrix is nothing but a Hermitian matrix. Okay, but we will see later that the notion of an adjoint operator also generalizes to differential operators, and there we the notion of Hermitian becomes generalized to self-adjoint differential operators. They form a very important class of operators, and they possess very interesting properties. For example, we know that Hermitian matrix possesses real eigenvalues and orthogonal eigenvectors and so on, right? So there is one point that I would like to clarify, which I did in one of the discussion hours: adjoint versus adjugate. That is, in many undergraduate textbooks, unfortunately, they define adjoint as the transpose of the matrix formed by the cofactors. Okay, but this is not the correct usage. That is adjugate, which refers to the transpose of the matrix of cofactors. This is useful when you find inverse of a matrix, right? This is something that you must be familiar. But what so this is actually adjugate. What we mean by adjoint is in this context. Okay, that is always VAU is nothing but A star VU, or in the matrix form, A star, which is adjoint of a matrix, is nothing but its Hermitian conjugate. Okay, so this is something that is useful, and we will come to this. Right now you can just understand that in the context of matrices, a Hermitian operator or a Hermitian matrix is the same as a self-adjoint matrix, and it has a very nice set of properties, because you know that the eigenvalues are real, the eigenvectors are orthogonal. That immediately lends itself to it immediately allows you to expand a given vector in the basis of the eigenvectors of that matrix, right? So that is a very useful thing to have. Okay, now what we are going to do next, okay, it's a very important topic. It's basically called similarity transformation. Okay. Okay, so when I say a linear operator like A, okay, what is a linear operator? It satisfies the basic condition of linearity, and it operates on X, and it gives rise to some other quantity Y. In a given basis, A becomes a matrix, n by n matrix in a given basis. This is something that we have shown. By projecting this on a given basis, you will find that EI A EJ is AIJ or AJI. Okay, this is AIJ, I comes first. Okay, so this is an n by n matrix. AIJ is the ijth component of the n by n matrix. In general, this matrix will be populated, right? It will have, it need not be zeros, or it doesn't appear very special. It has complete population in all the entries. Now you can ask the following question: suppose I want to express this matrix, this operator A, in a basis such that the matrix corresponding to A, matrix A corresponding to the operator A, is diagonal. Just as a matter of notation, I am representing the operator in this script A form, and the matrix that corresponds to that operator as A with 2 underscores. Okay, because this operator is an abstract quantity, and when you express this in a given basis, then it takes the form of an n by n matrix. So the question is, I want to express A in a basis such that the matrix that corresponds to this operator A is purely diagonal. That is, I want the matrix to have entries only along the diagonals and 0 everywhere. So what is that basis? What is that special basis? Well, it turns out that the basis wherein a given matrix or an operator becomes purely diagonal is its own eigenbasis. That is, if you express a matrix in its own, in a basis set containing its own eigenvectors. Remember that if that matrix is a normal matrix, it has a set of orthogonal orthogonal eigenvectors corresponding to distinct eigenvalues. That means that you can express any vector or matrix in that, or an operator in that space, in terms of the eigenbasis itself. So you will soon find that the moment you express a matrix in terms of its own eigenbasis, express a linear operator in terms of its own eigenbasis, it becomes purely diagonal. I can show it to you in a very simple manner. Suppose I have xi. Remember that if you have an operator, then a xi xj is nothing but aij, right? This is something that we have seen. Right now I'm going to assume that this xi and xj are not any arbitrary basis. Those are axi is nothing but lambda I xi. Okay, those are the eigenvectors of the operator A. That means the moment I have axi, I can write this as lambda xi. Okay, this lambda comes out, lambda I xi. This lambda comes out. This is nothing but lambda I times xj xi. If this is an orthonormal set, this means that this is lambda I delta ij is aij. So this means that this matrix has only entries along the diagonal, and what are those diagonal entries? Those are simply the eigenvalues of the matrix, and everywhere else it is 0. So a matrix, when expressed in terms of its own eigenbasis, becomes purely diagonal with the eigenvalues forming the entries along the diagonal. Okay, this is a very, very profound idea in linear algebra, and we will pursue this and discuss this a little bit in more detail under the topic of similarity transformation. Okay, so we will discuss this in more formal way. Okay. Okay, so let's say first we have a basis EI in an n-dimensional space. So this basis where I goes from 1 to n. Okay, so any vector x can be written as x1 e1 plus x2 e2, right? So the vector x in the given basis takes the form of a column vector comprising of the coefficients, these coefficients, right? x1, x2, so on up to xn. Okay, now you may not have only one basis, you may have many other bases to work with. So let's change the basis. To a set EI prime, a new set of bases. Now this basis, if I say new set of basis vectors, I have to first tell how is this related to the old basis. Then we cannot, otherwise we cannot even compare what we are saying, right? So EJ prime can be expressed in terms of Sij EI. Okay, you can express each element of the basis vector in the new basis in terms of the basis vectors in the old basis. Okay, and we are going to assume that the old basis is orthonormal. Okay, so if you want to know what is Skj, so I'll do Ek Ej prime is equal to summation over I Sij Ek Ei. Ek Ei is delta Ij. I just told you that we are assuming Ei is an orthonormal basis set. So sorry, this is delta Ki. I'm sorry. So delta Ki Sij is nothing but Skj, because I is getting summed over. So instead of I will replace I by K, right? And delta will remove the sum. So this is Skj is nothing but Ek Ej. So these are the coefficients of expansion of the new basis in terms of the old basis. Okay. Now so you can call Ej prime as summation I is equal to 1 to n. You can, instead of calling Sij or Skj, or you can call it Cij Ei, where this j corresponds to the superscript corresponds to this unit vector, the subscript corresponds to the summation. So for each unit vector you will get a different set of n coefficients, so this becomes a matrix, which is what I called as Sij. Okay, so this is where Kj is nothing but, okay. So all we are doing is to say that we are going to transform from one vector, a vector from one basis to another basis, and we are merely saying that the two bases are interrelated using this transformation. So x in the old basis is xi ei, and in the new basis is xj prime ej prime. So xi ei is nothing but, I'm forgetting all this, I is equal to 1 to n, j is equal to 1 to n. It's an n-dimensional space, so I will avoid writing this repeatedly to save time. So this is nothing but summation xj prime. What is ej prime? We just found what is ej prime here in terms of these quantities Sij or Cij, right? We have this relation, right? So we'll use that. Instead of Ej prime, I'm going to write summation 1 to n. Okay, so xi ei is summation over j, the summation over I. So I can interchange the two summations. So let's take the summation over I first, right? Sij, and then summation over j ei. Okay, so if I were to look at this combination, so if I were to rewrite this as EIXI, then if I compare the components of or coefficients of each of the EA vectors, because EAs are orthogonal, that means that I will get Xi is summation over j Sij xj prime, or x is equal to s dot x prime, where x is this column vector x1 xn, and x prime is the column vector x1 prime xn prime. Okay, okay, so this matrix S is called the transformation matrix that is associated with the change of basis. The coefficients of the vector x in a given basis changes to x prime in this fashion. Okay, or you can invert this. S is invertible, so x prime is nothing but S inverse x. That is also possible. And Ej prime is nothing but Sij Ei. Okay, right. So we have now x is equal to S x prime, right? That is the transformation. Suppose you have a set of coefficients in one basis, it is related to the coefficients in the other basis through the transformation matrix S. This is called the transformation matrix. We know what this matrix contains because this contains merely how the two unit vectors are related. We just saw this few minutes earlier. What are the elements Sij? Sij is nothing but, we just saw that it is Ej prime. Okay, that is Sij. Now instead of, okay, now I'm going to look at a linear transformation. Y is equal to Ax, right? So in a given basis this becomes y is equal to Ax, but instead of s, x and y, I will write in terms of x prime and y prime. This is nothing but s y prime is equal to A times s x prime. So y prime, if I pre-multiply both sides by s inverse, so let me write that step. S inverse s y prime is s inverse A s x prime. But s inverse s is nothing but this is identity, and identity times y prime is y prime. So y prime is s inverse A s times x prime. Okay, so what have we done here? So we had original expression of the linear transformation y is equal to Ax. In the transformed basis, we have moved to another basis. The linear transformation has become y prime is equal to s inverse As times x prime. So we are left to conclude that this object here should be A prime. That is, we are now writing y prime is A prime x prime. The original linear transformation in the original basis, that is EI basis. This is in the transformed basis. So how does the linear operator or matrix change on linear transformation? It changes as A prime is equal to s inverse A s. Okay, such a transformation is called a similarity transformation. This is called a similarity transformation. Of course, I can do a similar thing. I can first pre-multiply by s and post-multiply by s inverse to find that A is s A prime s inverse. So these are two sides of the same coin, right? It's not difficult to understand these two things. They are equivalent, right? So you can go from one basis to another. The linear operator changes in this fashion. Okay. So the same linear operator A has two representations in the two bases. In one basis it appears as the matrix A, in the other basis it appears as the matrix A prime. How are these two matrices related? In this fashion. And what is S? S is the matrix, transformation matrix containing the relation between the two basis vectors. Okay, all right. Now what is the big deal about similarity transformation? It's as follows. So let's look at some examples. If A is I, then A transpose, A prime in the transform basis is S inverse I S, but IS is just S, so this is S inverse S, this is I. So in the original basis it is I, in the transform basis it is I, right? So it's the matrix doesn't change. The identity matrix or the identity operator remains the same regardless of in whichever basis you are. It will always have just the same representation. Okay, so now I want you to understand that even if you transform an operator from one basis to another basis, there are certain properties of that operator or a matrix that remain the same. For example, we can show that the determinant of A in both the bases is the same if you do a similarity transformation. How? Determinant of A is determinant of A prime is determinant of S inverse AS. This is nothing but S inverse A, the product of three determinants, but these are just scalars, so I can write this is A S inverse S. but we know that determinant of S inverse is 1 over determinant of S, so this is 1, so this is A. So determinant of A prime is determinant of A. Okay, so next, the characteristic equation of a matrix. So characteristic equation, the equation solved to find the eigenvalues, right? What happens to that? Let's look at A prime minus lambda I. Okay, that is nothing but S inverse A S minus lambda I, right? And that is nothing but S inverse A minus lambda I S inverse times A minus lambda I times S. Okay, because S inverse S is identity. So now this is nothing but the product of three determinants, S inverse A minus lambda I and S. S inverse and S, the determinants will cancel to give just this is A minus lambda I. So the characteristic equation remains the same, right? And similarly we can show that the trace of the matrix in one basis is the same the trace of the matrix in a different basis. So these are called invariants of the matrix or the operator, in the sense that they don't depend on the basis in which you represent the matrix or operator in. It is independent of the basis. Okay, now so far we have not talked about any special transformation. We have taken any transformation, any linear transformation. There are some special transformations that one can do. One class of transformation is called a unitary transformation. What is a unitary transformation? A unitary transformation is one in which the transformation matrix S is unitary. That is, S dagger is S inverse. So A prime is S inverse AS. Okay, that's nothing but S dagger AS because it's unitary. Okay, what is so special about a unitary transformation? Suppose I have the original basis is orthogonal. Okay, now the question is, what about the transformed basis? Is it also orthogonal? Now we find it out. EI prime EJ prime is nothing but summation over K SKI EK summation over R SRJ EJ. This is the definition. This is nothing but summation over K S K I star summation over R S R J then E K E R. Okay, E K E R is, we are assuming it to be originally orthogonal or orthonormal, delta K R. So if I do this, I'll get summation over K S K I star and then S K J star. R and A will get contracted due to this thing, this delta function, right? So R will get removed and replaced by K. This is S K J. What is this? This is nothing but, right, this is S dagger S I J, but S dagger S is same as S inverse S I J because S dagger is S inverse. It's a unitary transformation, but S inverse S is delta Ij. It's unitary. It's a it's identity, right? So Ei prime Ej prime is also orthogonal, right? So in a unitary transformation, if the original basis is orthogonal, so is the transformed. that is, in some sense, then you are just merely rotating the basis vectors without changing the angles between them, right? Because they preserve the angles once they are perpendicular in some sense geometrically, then they remain geometric even in the transform basis. That means that the transformations are similar to rotations in geometry. Okay, so we'll now move to a very special similarity transformation, wherein so far what we covered so far is A prime is what? S inverse A S, right? This is the transformed matrix in a given in a different basis. The original basis, this is the new basis, this is the matrix or the operator in the new basis. Now I want the operator S to be formed such that it is formed using the eigenvectors of the matrix or operator A. That is, I have AXI lambda IXI, right, where lambda i's are the eigenvalues and xi's are the eigenvectors. I'll take each eigenvector and I'll place it as first column, second column, and so on up to nth column. So the columns of the transformation matrix are the eigenvectors of A. Okay, if that is the case, right, then what can we say about the nature of this particular transformation? That's the question we are trying to ask, right? So Sij is nothing but the Sij is the ijth component of this matrix, is nothing but the ith component of the jth eigenvector xj of A. Okay, so Sij is nothing but xj eigenvector ith component. Okay, so let's look at S inverse As ijth component is nothing but KL S inverse Ik AKL. This is just matrix multiplication. You have three different matrices, so taking two at a time. As of Kj is AKL SLJ, and then if you multiply that with the Sik, you will get the ijth component of this combination. Okay, now this is nothing but KL S inverse of Ik AKL, but we just saw that SLJ is nothing but xj, the lth component of the xjth eigenvector. Okay, so now AKL summation over K xjl is nothing but, from the eigenvalue property of this is nothing but lambda j, the jth eigenvalue, multiplied by xj of K, because now you are getting summed over L, right? So this summation will disappear, and you because this matrix times this vector, that matrix summation is over L, that will disappear to give rise to only lambda j xjk. Okay, so this is nothing but summation over K summation over L S inverse of Ik now again I will go back to what is xjk. This is nothing but S of Kj. Okay, because that is the definition of S vector, so sorry, the S matrix. Sij is xj of I, skj will be xj of k. Now this is nothing but the product of S and S inverse. This is identity. This is nothing but delta ij. Okay, so when I try A prime is S inverse A S and I choose the S such that it contains the eigenvectors of A, okay, x1, x2 and so on, xn, then A prime becomes purely diagonal. And this is not just purely diagonal. I'm sorry, I forgot to write one thing, this lambda j here. I'm sorry. So this is lambda j, and A prime will be purely diagonal. But what are the diagonal entries? They are the eigenvalues of the matrix A. Okay, this is a very special type of similarity transformation wherein you are using the eigenvectors of the matrix of the operator itself as the basis of representing the matrix, and the result of that is that the matrix appears diagonal. This is called diagonalization of a matrix. Okay, what is diagonalization of a matrix? You are merely transforming the matrix such that this transformation matrix contains the eigenvectors of A, and therefore you are able to, now we have shown that once S contains the eigenvectors of A, then this becomes purely diagonal. Why is it useful? It is useful because once you represent a vector or a linear equation in if you have a matrix, if you represent a linear equation system of equations in matrix form, if the matrix is diagonal, then you can immediately tell the solution within no time, right? Because the equations become decoupled. So this idea is again very general. It's not restricted to matrices alone. You will find that this is also true for differential operators, wherein you are able to solve certain problems very easily when you represent the differential operator in terms of its eigenbasis. Okay, so I'll stop here and then I'll continue along similar lines in the next module. Thank you.